Hello, good evening, and welcome to Radio Times Talks. I'm Morgan Jeffrey, Executive Editor at RadioTimes.com. Joining me on the Radio Times Talks panel are RadioTimes.com's sci-fi and fantasy editor, Louise Griffin, content creator Josh Bryanton, also known as TikTok's Jelly Joshin, and Will Preston and Rob Holden, co-hosts of the Marvel versus Marvel podcast. Welcome. Marvel, it feels like, has dominated superhero cinema more or less for the past 15 years. I've got a little fact here. It would take 68 hours, roughly, to watch every single Marvel movie back to back, which is the same amount of time it would take to watch the Snyder Cut of Justice League. But that's true. But with Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn jumping ship to join DC Studios, is the reign of the MCU about to come to an end? How are we feeling about the MCU right now?
I'm feeling a little bit wary, to be honest with you. I was thinking about
wary.
Yeah, wary is my word. That's my one word. I think a lot of people will think the golden age of Marvel has been and gone. I think a lot of us we're big Marvel fans. It's a nostalgia thing for a lot of us. But looking at the immediate slate, I think for a lot of people, there's nothing that massively stands out in like a lot of the older ones.
Do we agree?
No, I mean, I'm a lifelong comic book reader. I grew up with them, which probably makes my perspective maybe a little different. And I have to say, I feel like so catered for, over catered for. I'm so satisfied. Like, I can feel 10-year-old like me from the 90s, and even when I was in the early 2000s, in my 20s, the idea there's a She-Hulk TV series, there's a Hawkeye TV series, there's an Eternals movie. Like, I just feel like his head would explode on a regular basis. And looking ahead to things like the Fantastic Four, the original family, that's got me pretty excited.
Marvel's first family. Let's look at the slate that Marvel's got coming up. So first up in November, we have the Marvels, which unites Brie Larson's Captain Marvel with Iman Vellani's Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and Tiona Paris as Monica Rambeau. How are we feeling, panel, about this one? Josh, I'll throw to you.
I'm quite excited for it. I think it has been met quite negatively, but these are three characters that I'd like to see explored more. I think Kamala herself is a very fun character. It's given me a lot of the same energy as what made me fall in love with Peter Parker Spider-Man initially. So I am particularly excited to see her story expanded in this, and I think it could be a bit of a growth period for her as well. From what I saw from the trailer, I'm very excited for it personally.
It's interesting with the Marvels. You know, Rob, you mentioned, it's great that we have these spin-off shows as well, these Marvel shows on Disney Plus. The Marvels, perhaps more than any other big screen release we've seen so far, feels like it draws very heavily on those Disney Plus shows. So you've got Monica from WandaVision, and you've got Kamala from Ms. Marvel. Is that going to be a barrier to the more casual audience member, do we think?
Well, it's a potential for that, isn't it? But I don't think they would have pushed ahead with the movie if they thought that. I mean, this is, I think, going to be an incredible moment because Kamala Khan is like maybe the last great success story of Marvel Comics. Ms. Marvel issue 1, embracing new female lead character, and that's like diverse leading character. The sales of that comic exploded. It drew in huge amounts of brand new readers that had never read a Marvel comic book before in their life. So to have that character on a big screen is going to be a really great thing for the MCU. And I think they're probably hoping to carry over some of that success from ink and page to the big screen.
Following that, in May 2024, we have Captain America: New World Order. Anthony Mackie as the new Cap. Now, I'll put out that I'm really excited about this one. This is basically a stealth sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which to my mind is the most underrated MCU movie.
100%.
Yes.
That's why I'm excited. How are we feeling about Cap: New World Order?
I think this is maybe the most important moment in the MCU since Avengers.
Wow.
Because this is going to be a referendum on whether movie-going audiences can accept what comic book audiences have had to for a while, which is that the costume and the name and the character can pass on to a different person. And if Marvel can pull this off, if they can do that in a way that the audience embraces a new Captain America as a movie lead, then the franchise becomes less like a Spider-Man and a Batman that needs a reboot every 10 years, and maybe more robust like a James Bond, where the audience accepts Captain America, and okay, the personality and the actor is going to develop and change, but we all still pay our money to go and see a Captain America movie.
For me, one of the best things, my favorite thing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier was Wyatt Russell and his performance as John Walker, the new Captain America, who then became US agent. He is returning to the fold, making his big screen MCU debut in what is the next release, which is Thunderbolts. Josh, how are you feeling about that one?
I'm excited to actually see it.
Yeah.
I think, like you were saying, there's some amazing talent across this film. I'm interested to see how they do kind of balance everything that's going on. I do believe Sebastian Stan's coming back for it, and I do have that feeling in me that I do want his story to be done personally.
Interesting.
I think there are certain characters that are within that lineup that will be great to actually see.
Do we feel like that's going to be an interesting balanced combination of characters, that lineup they do have, Will?
I think it is. I'm not familiar with it. He's the expert. But as a movie-going person, I look at it as like, oh, this is essentially Marvel's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And it's got Florence Pugh, who can do no wrong. I'm absolutely excited for that.
So let's look at what's coming up next for Marvel. You've got in September 2024, Blade arrives. The new version of Blade. Blade enters the MCU, and this one's been a long time coming. It was originally announced in 2019. I was at San Diego Comic-Con when that was announced, and the excitement was very palpable. People were very excited for it. But then it was originally set for release later this year. It's now been pushed back a year, so it's coming out towards the end of next year. It's changed directors. Do we still have high hopes for Mahershala Ali as Blade?
Yes. I can't
Louise,
wait to
take
Blade.
it.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a big opportunity for Marvel if they do it right. It's got to, for me, it's got to have those horror elements that we love so much about Blade.
Yeah.
We don't want it just to be a redo of the old one, but there are certain things that I think Marvel has to try and embrace a little bit. We've seen it can do that with Multiverse of Madness. That was what I most liked about that film, to be honest, the way it took it in that sort of slightly embracing horror. So if it does that well, I think it's got a big opportunity, to be honest.
But Blade, the Wesley Snipes movie, generally quite well regarded. So will that be an issue that Marvel's going to start running into these things of, oh, we're now getting into the territory that people are more familiar with and actually have some attachment to previous iterations? Is that going to be I mean, Will, as someone who's a moviegoer, how do you feel about that?
It's going to be an incredibly tough act to follow for Wesley Snipes, but unlike the other films that have been rebooted, it's been a very long time since we last saw Blade on the big screen. There's a lot of space to maneuver with this and to maybe try something new. But at the same time, you can sort of riff off the vibe of the original film.
We've talked a lot about R-rated movies, and that brings us on to, in November of 2024, Deadpool crossing over into the MCU. Not only that, but Deadpool 3 will see the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Are we hyped for the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? I do have some misgivings about bringing back Wolverine just because Logan was so good, and it was sold to us as this is the swan song of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. To revisit that, is that a risk, Will?
I don't think it's that much of a risk because, hey, we're in the multiverse now.
Right.
This could obviously be a different Wolverine, or this is a different interpretation of Wolverine. And plus, Logan takes place in the future. So this is canonically fine.
Yeah. Canonically, it's fine. Emotionally, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel like I've said goodbye to that character.
Yeah.
I mean, Louise, how are you feeling?
No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I think as soon as we all heard it was happening, it was the immediate thing of this is brilliant, but then will it cheapen that ending? I think it's an incredibly sort of hard thing to balance, and I hope they do it justice.
February 2025, Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. So Will is so excited. Why are you so excited?
This is the weird thing. I've never been a big fan of the Fantastic Four, but I know it's the multiple attempts to bring it to the big screen, some better than others. I'm just really, really excited to see something light-hearted like this and fun. And of course, Ben Grimm clobbering people.
Yes. Before we get on to the other side of the coin, May 2025, and then a year later, May 2026, we have 2 new Avengers movies. So you have Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars. It feels like they're trying to do an Infinity War Endgame, right? Quite obviously. Have they done enough to earn another big 2-part finale?
I think they will have done enough to earn another 2-part finale. I don't know if anything is going to compare to Infinity War Endgame. Not to plug another one of our interviews, but Joe Russo recently told us that fans need to be patient, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but it does feel a bit like that this is what we're leading up to and this is what we're going to be patient for. Yeah, I think it all depends in how they build it up and what kind of how we feel about these characters going into it. Do we have enough of a draw to them? Do we like them enough to care about those Avengers films in 2-3 years' time?
Yeah. Josh, I mean, trying to do another Endgame, is there a risk inherent in that?
I think one of my concerns being that these Avengers movies were both initially scheduled for next year. Again, like we were plugging, we did get told to be patient, but patience is building this love for these characters over many years. My concern being that these are within the next 2 years, which we had some build up for phase 1 onwards to even get the first Avengers movie. So I think that's where my worries lie there, personally.
Well, once again, we want to know what our audience thinks. So pick up your phones. We want to know which of those movies we've just discussed, which phase 5 and phase 6 Marvel movie are you most excited for? Vote now. And while you do that, we'll throw to our panel. So Louise, of those titles that we've just discussed, which are you most excited for?
I am looking forward to Fantastic Four,
Yeah?
I think the combination of that fun you were talking about, I think it has the chance to be something new. I like that it's from Matt Shakman. I trust him very much after WandaVision. It just has a combination of factors that made me think this is going to be great. I think the last piece of the puzzle is that casting that it really comes down to. But if they nail that as well, I think it's got, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be really good.
Josh, what about you?
I think it's a tough one because there are some very exciting projects. I think I'm going to go for Captain America: New World Order. I think, like we were mentioning earlier, it is, let's say passing the shield, because it is. But this is a character that we have seen take on that leadership role over quite a few years. So it does feel like it's not just a completely fresh person taking this. We saw in the show as well, kind of learning how to fit into those huge shoes to fill. So I think if this story stays true to who he is and gives him an interesting direction, I think it could be one of the best projects we've seen for a while.
Will?
I'm going to be unoriginal and say Fantastic Four. I just think it's the one that stands out the most out of the rest of them, because this is not a sequel, it's not a team up, it's a retreading of, as you said, Marvel's first family. And there have been attempts to do this before, as I've said, and I just want to see how the MCU takes a spin on it and runs with it. And maybe we'll see Galactus one day.
Oh, Galactus done properly. I want like full purple headgear. I want Silver Surfer. I want full unfiltered.
No methane cloud. Pure Galactus.
Rob, what about you?
Well, weirdly, I think it's the Thunderbolts movie. I mean, I think the
plot
threads that have been woven through the most recent shows and movies have all been leading to this, with Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character, the Contessa, and that's where all the story threads are pointing me at the moment, to Thunderbolt.
I have to say, I think for me, Fantastic Four, just because those characters are so iconic, and I'm just really, really excited to see what they do with it. What has our audience said?
Oh,
surprising. Okay, so in third place is Fantastic Four. In second place, Fantastic Four, because in joint first place we have Deadpool 3. Either a lot of Deadpool fans or Wolverine fans in the audience. We'll find out in a minute. And again, joint first, Captain America: New World Order. Who voted for Captain America: New World Order? Anyone in the audience want to volunteer? Yes. So what's your name? Scott. Scott, why did you vote for Cap 4?
I actually took a little minute to put which vote down I wanted to, because I think it's really interesting what you covered so far. Like, Thunderbolt seems like it's going to be brilliant. I didn't know too much about it before being here, but that sounds interesting to get all these people we already know together and do something much different to what we've seen. Captain America, as you've been saying, it's can they take things on and actually sort of transfer to Anthony Mackie and see if they can take on, because he's always been a linchpin, I think, of Captain America's always been a linchpin of the whole MCU, really. So can they take it on to these next sort of phases and to the big films with Kang Dynasty? I think that's really important as fans, sort of my generation. I haven't read all the comic books and everything, but as it's hit the big cinema, like I've got to know all those characters so well. So yeah, I voted for Captain America to see can they take it on for what I know.
So on that note, that's all our time. But thank you to our panel, Louise, Rob, Will, and Josh. A round of applause, please, for our super panel and our heroic audience. Thank you very much.